Hi. This episode, I have Chelsea Adler on the episode. I'm a big fan of all of her content that she's been putting out on LinkedIn. So I think I first started following her when I saw someone else's comment on her post and brought me to her profile. So I connected with her and stayed following with her. And over the years, I just was like, wow, she has some of these amazing posts. But nobody have told her story. So I was like, you know what? I gotta get her on a podcast, on my podcast, and tell her story. So in the world of actuary, modeling, reinsurance, projections, and such a big part of our insurance industry. And I don't think there's enough people telling their stories. So in the coming days, I'm looking forward to connect with more people in the actuary world and modeling world and reinsurance world and tell their stories. But I hope you enjoyed this episode with Chelsea. And there was a part where I was multitasking, looking up the canvas of roots and ask her an embarrassing question, which she already said the answer to before that. So, but I didn't edit it out because I thought, you know what, I want to give it to you guys straight, give it to you guys transparent. So enjoy this episode with Chelsea Adler. Hi, welcome to this episode of Industry's Voice. Today, we have Chelsea Adler on the podcast. Chelsea, did I say your last name right?
Could you say it again? I actually couldn't hear you. I think it cut out.
Oh, today we have Chelsea Adler. Did I say it right?
Yes, that is right.
I really try my best not to botch it. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. And thank you for asking. I know that not everyone does, so I appreciate it.
So I have your LinkedIn on the other side. So sometimes my eyes come over here. So this just so I can stay on topic. And then I'm looking at your profile and I've been reading your LinkedIn. And that's where we met each other. I started following you on LinkedIn. And you have some great posts. And I encourage all of our audience, if you do have LinkedIn, you jump over there and you find Chelsea. I'm going to put the link in the comment section by the time we're done. So this way that our audience can connect with you and follow you. But you do have some amazing content and I love what you post. And you know what? I think the whole show is about people who has a voice, people who has a community, right? And I think you kind of have both. You have following, you have people who follow your journey in the actual world. And then you are a very big speaker about why actuary is great, why you should get into actuary career. And also you are based out of Columbus, Ohio, if I'm correct.
Yep.
And Columbus, Ohio, it's a bubble. It's an insurance bubble. I've been there for InsurTech Ohio, and I was like, this is so cool. So many people in one area, all about insurance, whether it's regional carriers, national carriers, InsurTech carriers, softwares, vendors. So you have, multiple community of your actual community, your Columbus community. And I'm going to turn the mic back over to you. I said a little too much, and I want to hear from you directly of your insurance journey. So here we go.
Yeah, I mean, before I even jump into my background, I'd love to just pause and acknowledge what you said about, this podcast is about people who have a voice. I personally believe that everyone does. I am really not anyone special. I just am super passionate about a particular topic. And I started dabbling in this whole social media world a couple years ago. And by God's grace, it resonated with some people. And, I feel extremely fortunate to have a platform now. And like you said, people that are interested to hear what I have to say. But I would just encourage anyone listening that, again, I am no one special. Anybody can do this. And if you're passionate about a particular topic, just start putting out those ideas to the world. And I guarantee you there's going to be some people that are going to grab onto that. So anyway, I just wanted to start with that. My insurance journey actually started very, very young. I am a daughter of an insurance agent, and my mom actually works in his office. So I grew up, insurance is in my blood. I actually got the opportunity to work in his office a little bit in high school. Had the pleasure of making cold calls and having, some difficult conversations pretty early on in life. And then when I was a senior in high school, I decided I wanted to be an actuary. And my dad took me over to State Farm's headquarters to job shadow an actuary. And after sitting in cubicles all day long, I came out and was like, yep, this is the job for me. This is what I want to do. So yeah, on I went to college at Ohio State University. I studied actuarial science there, graduated, and started my first full-time job as an actuary at State Farm in Bloomington, Illinois, so where they're headquartered. I had an amazing experience there. I truly thought I was going to work there for my entire life. That's what most people at the company do. They stick around a long time. But circumstances changed around the end of 2019. My husband and I made a decision to move back to Columbus to be closer to family. And at the time, this was pre-pandemic and there were no remote opportunities. So I had to find something else and did some research and discovered Root, which is my current employer. And I didn't know a ton at the time. There wasn't that much available publicly, but I loved their mission about trying to, kind of revolutionize insurance and make it something that people don't hate, make it easier, more fair, more transparent. I love that mission. And I thought from everything that I learned, they had a good shot at doing it. So I made the leap over to the InsurTech world in 2019. It'll be 5 years with Root this October. So it's been a pretty crazy ride and I've enjoyed every minute of it, even the hard moments. I feel like I've grown so much and that's where I am today.
So for those audience that is not familiar with Root, can you just give a little bit of background on who they are? I mean, they were first on the scene even before Lemonade, before Hippo, before all these other InsurTech that we're seeing popping up, the Coterie, the CoverWell, the branch insurance of the world. So, give us back to like 2019, right? That's like 5 years ago. So what was it like when you got there in 2019?
Yeah, very different world than today. I believe the company actually launched in 2016. Like I said, I didn't join until 2019, so a few years in, but it still was very much a startup feel. Root is an auto carrier or a startup insurance company that focuses on the private passenger auto market, primarily leveraging telematics through gathering data from people's smartphones to rate their insurance. We do have a couple of other lines and we're investing in lots of partnerships, but that's kind of like our bread and butter is auto. So the way I describe to people my first few months at Root before we all went remote was if you think about like the old days of like stock market exchange floors where people are just like running around and like waving their hands in the air, that to some degree is what it felt like being in the office at Root in in the early days. It was, and not in a bad way, but it was just so high energy, so quick moving. There were lots of fire drills all the time. And to me at the time, that was extremely energizing. I loved it. I felt like I was learning so much. It was definitely, it's not for the faint of heart. But it was pretty crazy and it was exciting. And then of course, 2020 hit, we all went remote. Now we have a work where it works best model, which essentially just means that people have the option to still come into the office, which I actually do fairly regularly. And they can also work remotely up to 100% of the time. So we have people all across the country that now work here.
I'm going to go back a little bit more. You worked in insurance agency, right? So like all the challenges the insurance agent work with. Were you in sales side, service side, a little bit both?
So I was just, in my dad's little agency. I was not at the time licensed to sell. It just didn't make sense for me to go down that path, given I was like about to go off to college. So I handled a lot of like administrative type actions. Some of that was on the sales front, just kind of getting awareness out to different products that we offered. A lot of it was filtering phone calls to the people that were either licensed to sell or quote, or just like helping with some of the, like I said, administrative type tasks that agents have to deal with on a regular basis.
Gotcha. And going back to 2019, joining Root was going to be your first official career in the actuary world. What was the challenge when you walk in that door and being an actuary in the day one?
Yeah, so just to clarify, my first full-time actuarial role was actually with State Farm when I first graduated college.
That's right.
Yeah. But it was a pretty big culture shock. I mean, you think insurance is State Farm is one of the largest insurance carriers in the country, and it's extremely traditional in the way that it does things, and the pace is very different. So moving into the InsurTech world, it was a major culture shock. And I remember one of my first moments of like, oh, what did I get myself into, was on my first day. I had one onboarding session. I think it was like 30 minutes long. And then the HR representative hands me a laptop and says, have a great day. Slack me if you need anything. And I'm standing there like, I don't even know which desk is mine. I don't know who my teammates are. I don't even know what this Slack thing is she's talking about. So it was different. But it was one of those things where sometimes you just learn quicker when you're thrown into things. And I feel like that was the case for me.
So some corporate culture use Teams, you guys use Slack.
Yeah, we primarily focus on like the Google suite. So we do a lot of, pretty much all of our documentation is Google Docs and Sheets. And then we primarily use Slack as like our day-to-day communication. And then, occasionally use email.
Sure. So change gear for a second. You have some amazing content that you post on LinkedIn, right? And some of them are in your feature section. I'm looking at it, while we're having this conversation. When did you say, you know what, I'm going to use this microphone I have, I'm going to use this platform I have, this follower base I have, I'm going to start talking about my industry, my career, openly, transparently, because I think one thing that is not said enough is like, there's a lot of content creator out there, but it's majority men, right? Like they just out there, they're just talking about it. They don't even care who's listening. And people just pick up on things, right? But, you're a woman, you're in insurance, and you say, I'm going to use my platform. I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to talk about what I go through, and I'm going to encourage more people to go through it. What's that day one like? Just decide to pick up a microphone. Thank you for all your support to our channel. Here is a quick word from our sponsor. Please click on the link below in the comment section to sign up for a demo with Track AI.
What if your insurance sales conversations could work harder for you? Meet Track, your AI-powered conversation intelligence partner. Track automatically captures and analyzes every customer interaction, providing instant call summaries, risk analysis, and AI-driven coaching insights. Say goodbye to manual note-taking and hello to more selling time. Track handles the admin work while you handle the revenue. Fully integrated with your favorite platforms. Plus, get custom AI analysis tailored to your unique business needs. Transform your sales team's performance with Track. Visit track.ai today.
Click the link in the description below to schedule a demo with Track today.
I actually originally had some sort of an idea that I would do something like this at my fellowship conference in Hawaii, where I was recognized for, passing all of the actuarial exams. I was sitting on a bus as we were like going around the island, just kind of staring out the window. And there was just something inside of me that was really wrestling with like, okay, you've just invested so much of your life for the past 7 years into taking these exams. And I knew that there was going to be an endpoint, but I didn't know, like, I don't know. I was just really wrestling with like, Lord, what do you have for me in this next season? Like, how am I supposed to give back, to invest in the time that I now have? And I just felt this like pang on my heart that I'm so blessed to do a job that I genuinely think is so life-giving, so just interesting, and it also provides well for my family. And there's so many people that could be very successful and enjoy this career that have never heard of it. And I just want to change that. I didn't really know at the time like what in the world that would look like, but I just felt something deep inside of me was like, someday I'm going to like share about this somehow. So then fast forward about 9 to 12 months of kind of wrestling through like what this could look like. I was actually like really, really struggling with like depression and anxiety. Like during the pandemic, it came to light how unhealthy it was, how much I was working. And I really kind of had to take a step back and reevaluate like, what are my priorities? What do I want to stand for? What do I want to do with my time? And that's when I kind of came up with the idea for the blog. I was like, I would love to educate people about this profession, help them pursue it. But I don't know much about this. And at the time, I think I remember trying to like film myself for the first time, and I almost quit then and there. It was the most awkward thing I had ever done. I was like, I cannot do this. There's no way. And so I think that ultimately is what led me to try the blog first. I felt it was like safer to put words on paper and then to like get that out to the world. And then I've like slowly gotten more comfortable with some of the other stuff. But I'll be honest, a lot of the times I feel extremely scared and vulnerable to share the stuff that I do. A lot of times I will, create or draft something and I won't send it for days or weeks because I want to like pray over it and make sure that it is something I like really believe. And you never know how things are going to be perceived. So it's a little bit scary to put myself out there, but it's also been a huge blessing in a lot of ways.
So I have read some of your posts. They're great. Are you posting in other places outside of LinkedIn? Like where else are you posting?
Yeah, so I primarily leverage LinkedIn and Instagram. Those are kind of the two big platforms that I focus on. I did actually create a TikTok, I want to say a year or two ago. That was also probably one of the biggest leaps of faith. I'm like, at first, I just thought it was a platform that people danced on. And I was like, well, I can't do that. So the more I learned about it and the more I understood how some creators were using it to educate, I actually thought it was a fantastic idea. It's extremely effective if you do it right. And so I have created some content for TikTok that I then repurposed sometimes for Instagram and LinkedIn. And then I did also launch a YouTube channel for some more like long format content, but that just takes a little bit longer to create and to edit. So I haven't been able to put out as much there.
Now I'm like slowly typing and try to go to your YouTube channel. Is it how many videos up?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. If I had to guess, like maybe 10 to 15. Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this, but I actually had a daughter about a year ago. And so a lot of my focus for the last year has just really been on, my family and making the most of this time. So I've been a little removed from a lot of the blog stuff, but I do absolutely plan to do a lot more with it. And I feel like I'm just starting to get into this place with motherhood where I'm like, okay, I feel like I've got a little more, bandwidth to think about things outside of, just taking care of my daughter. So I've got a few things on my mind and a few conferences coming up that I'm really excited about.
For our listeners out there, make sure you go give her a follow. Not just her LinkedIn, but her Instagram and her YouTube channel, Chelsea Adler. 1,400 followers. That's pretty awesome. And you need to give us some more content. So I'll be checking you out and waiting for those. So you mentioned TikTok, and we had this conversation right before we hit the record button that insurance it could be a big thing on TikTok, and it really is not. But I just think, it needs the content creator like me, like you. We need to go out there. We need to put some more content on there. And I think, if you put your energy there, there's going to be a lot of great results and you can connect with a lot of people there. So, coming back to your community, from your videos, right? From your videos and your post, how many people are connecting with you? And I'm just guessing on this, right? Are people connecting with you, say, hey, I thought about doing Actuary, and now that I watch your video and I'm going to dive in. Have you got those messages yet?
Yeah. Sometimes I am truly just shocked at the number of people and also like where they're coming from or like how they even heard of me. And just like I think TikTok in particular has blown my mind with what's possible in terms of like potential reach with some of this content. I just, now that since I have not been as active over the last, 12 months of my daughter's life, the messages have slowed a little, which is honestly great because I can't keep up with them. But when I'm like really active with posting stuff, like I do my best, but I cannot get back to everybody all the time. And it's just truly such an honor to have people, tell me that they thought my content was helpful or that they heard about the profession for the first time from one of my videos. That's just been really sweet. And I've gotten to help. I've done like resume reviews. I've helped people with like prepare for interviews. I sometimes do like virtual job shadows or interviews where I'll just kind of like answer whatever questions they send me via email. I'm actually working on one right now. So that's just been really sweet to get to continue to like connect with the folks that have enjoyed my content and are interested about the profession.
What do you think is misunderstood about the actuary world when people walk into that door?
I think there's a lot. Gosh, I mean, I think one of the most common stereotypes is just that actuaries are like really nerdy and boring, which, some of that's in the eye of the beholder. But I think also that actuaries don't know how to communicate well. And I think that is just that hasn't been my experience with the professionals that I work with. I think like any skill, it can be honed and improved. And I think that, if you have a leaning towards more of like an analytical mind, you have enjoyed math and statistics, and you like to solve problems, like this could be one of the most interesting jobs you could possibly do. There's just endless problems to solve. And the work that you do is so impactful, both to, the insurance world, or the insurance industry, but the world at large. Everything is all interconnected. And I just think this is a really like purposeful job that has a lot of potential impact that's very meaningful. So, I think that's a couple of things that are top of mind in terms of misconceptions about actuaries.
So, State of Ohio and Ohio University did come to you. They said, hey, Chelsea, we want State of Ohio to produce more actuary. And Ohio State University said, hey, Chelsea, we want to build a course that pump out the best actuary in the country. We want them to know this is the golden standard of best actuary in the country. And we have tons of companies around Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland that will accept these people as interns and place them in the field in our corporation. How would you go about building this course? And what do you think is needed to be built versus today? What's there today? What's available today?
So I can't exactly speak to exactly what is on the curriculum in colleges right now. I mean, I graduated 10 years ago, so I'm sure it's changed. But a couple of opportunities I see beyond just kind of like the core skills of an actuary. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. The actuaries need to be strong in math, statistics, have an understanding of economics, an understanding of accounting. They need to be strong analytically. Like there's a lot of technical skills that are a little more obvious and easier to maybe focus on in a classroom setting. I think there's more of the intangibles where there's opportunity. I think actuaries you can be so smart, but if you are not an effective communicator and an influential leader, then your impact as an actuary is extremely limited. And so I would just try to think through like, how can we help actuaries be more well-rounded so that they're not just these really, really incredibly smart book nerds, but then they can also communicate and interact effectively with the people that they're ultimately trying to, accomplish company goals with. So I would really focus on, the communication, the leadership side of things. And then, in the last handful of years, the data science and kind of model building has, I think, become a little bit more like there's been more focus put on that. There's so much overlap between data scientists and actuaries. And frankly, a lot of the similar skills are needed in both professions. And so I would just continue to invest in that area too. Actuaries need to stay relevant and stay on top of the skills to do the job. So that's another big focus I would have. I want to say I took one Excel class when I was in college, and that would not be sufficient today.
So I have a lot of questions now that we're getting to this subject. What do you think is the most challenging actuary job today? Is it we're talking about modeling, right? Is it CAT modeling? Is it reinsurance modeling? Is it cyber modeling? Or is it property insurance modeling? Because I'm only mentioning this because property insurance is $200 billion industry, and the industry haven't made money in 3 years, right? Which role would you say, you know what? Whoever walk into that role and get it right, they need to be paid the most because it is the hardest.
Cool. I mean, I don't feel equipped to really say, not because I haven't worked in those different spheres. I can only speak from the perspective of a P&C actuary. But having gone from a carrier that was extremely data rich to one that has little to no data, at least in the early days, my opinion is that whatever product or insurance space you're working in that has the least amount of data, that's the hardest because you just have so much less to go off of. There's so many assumptions you have to make, and it's the margin of error and uncertainty is so wide. If you can be successful in a very, very uncertain space with very little data, then I think, in my opinion, that would be the actuary that should be compensated the highest.
Good answer. Have another one. How many states have you done actually in both State Farm and Rules? Have you done all 50? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Definitely not all 50, but I would say I have in some way or fashion worked with at least 40 of the 50 states from an actuarial perspective or as a state manager in my current role.
So you will know the next question then. Which state
so.
do you think is the most challenging? Actually to get it right.
There's quite a few that can be challenging, and it kind of depends on in what regard you're talking about. Are you talking challenging to be profitable, challenging to work with the Department of Insurance, challenging, there's so many different angles. I think it's no secret that California is an extremely challenging market. New York is a very tricky one as well. And then, there's a handful of other, I would say generally the prior approval states that have chosen that form of filing approval tend to be a little bit more challenging from a lot of different angles. But from what I've seen, California and New York are kind of the top ones. And Florida.
Florida's always on the list.
Yeah.
Insurance in Florida go hand in hand everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Florida is really its own bubble. So the other day I made this post on LinkedIn and Facebook, and those of you who don't know, I live in Virginia, and Virginia is the border state to Maryland. We call the DMV, stand for DC, Maryland, Virginia. And Maryland made the list of the most expensive auto insurance state. And I couldn't believe it because that's always between Michigan, Louisiana, Florida, New York, year after year, never changed. Always those four fighting out to see who's more expensive. And Maryland pop up on the most expensive. I was like, maybe a couple more rate filings have not kicked in yet for Louisiana or Michigan. But for Maryland to be even top 10 was shocking to me. And just there's everybody have data of what it looks like in the past 20 years. But the last 3 years, I feel like everything we know about insurance is all changing so fast.
Yeah, the pandemic definitely flipped a lot of things on its head. I'm actually pretty surprised to hear that too. I don't have a ton of expertise in Maryland specifically, but I do know like Michigan as an example, it used to be kind of like bottom of our list of states we would want to expand into because of the challenges, but then they changed the unlimited PIP law. So, that changes the game. So to the extent that there is, legislative reform, that can also impact how challenging a market is or isn't.
Yeah. For a bunch of Buckeye people, do you guys have Michigan fans in your campus, in your building?
Like at Root?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there are some. I can't think of anyone offhand or anyone that's been bold enough to advertise that.
I'm just curious because I know in Ohio, it's so hardcore. It's in the blood, like that whole rivalry. So, yeah. All right. So looking forward and a year from now, what is going to be on your plate if you talk about something comfortable goals and uncomfortable goals?
I mean, as I mentioned before, I've intentionally kind of taken a step back from some of the blog stuff. And I would really love to like start getting back into it. I've gotten an idea for my next post. And I really just want to be very intentional about how I'm prioritizing my time between work and my family, and then also hopefully continuing to give back and invest in the actuarial community. So just kind of, testing that out, see what makes sense. A lot of what I've done through the blog is experimentation. It's just, find something that I'm passionate about, I'm excited to talk about, try it, throw it out to the world, see how it, how it goes. So I just want to kind of be experimenting a little bit more. So, I mean, that's probably a little bit of both the comfortable and the uncomfortable. I want to challenge myself to continue to create stuff. But I'm definitely in a season of life where, I can't justify investing in strangers on the internet above my family, right? So I do have to be, very careful about how I'm investing my time and balancing that. So it's tricky, but I'm excited to start to kind of ramp things back up again and hopefully put out a few more videos and get some more content created in the near future.
That's awesome. I really appreciate the time you've given us today.
Yeah.
And, when I was creating the show, Industry Voice, and, I was focusing on people who I know have a community following, a community of influence. And you are definitely up there on community of influence. So, just thank you for coming on the show. And we're looking forward to having you back.
Thanks, Jeff. It's really an honor to have you reach out and to be on your show. I'm so excited to see all that you do with this as well. I'm definitely cheering you on, and just thank you so much for including me.
Awesome. Have a great one.
Thanks.